Hey, Olive, Arlo, and Frank. Brand new 70-year-old grandpa coming to you from the living room. Vintage, made in 1953. They don't make them like they used to. Actually, I'm sure now they make them a little better. I'm sure you three guys have all been made a little better than me. So it is my 70th birthday today. But I want to talk to you about something that happened 40 years ago. And that is that I grew up. This video is titled, I grew up when I was 30 years old. When did you? Now, what this means is that for almost half of my life, half of my life is 35 years old. For almost half of my life, I didn't act like a grown-up. I acted like a kid. And people always talk about the generation that they live in. Their generation is better than the next one. And all these kids today, they don't know anything. But I don't know how true any of that stuff is. But I do know this, that today, and I'm talking about not just August 5th, 2023, but I'm talking about the modern era, when I grew up. People in the United States have had it pretty easy. You know, when you look back at human history, there was a time that we were fighting dinosaurs. We were going to war. We were subsistence farmers, hunters. If you couldn't do hard work, you died. And kids would grow up really young because their parents would raise them, and then when they got to be like 13 years old, they'd go, okay, we're going to train you to be a warrior, and now you're one of us. We think it's pretty bad that 18-year-olds are sent off to fight. There were like 13-year-olds sent off to fight back in the day. It was very, very tough. People didn't live that long. People died horrible deaths. But now, even when there's wars going on all the time, it's not affecting most of us. Well, when I was 30, I grew up. I don't remember the exact date. It's not like I have a, hey, I grew up birthday. I'm doing it today because it's very important. This video is probably the second most important video that I've done so far. And the first was my testimony. You know, if you don't have Jesus in your life, you need him. Because the Bible says, what happens if you gain the whole world and you lose your soul? So that's more important than this, but this is really, really important. Growing up, and most people think that they're grown up, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So I was 30 when I grew up. I just got divorced from my wife, Marcia. That's your grandmother, your biological grandmother, Arlo and Frank, and it's not really anybody that you're going to have anything to do with, Olive, but she means a lot to Tom. And Arlo, you'll probably get to meet her someday if you haven't already. I don't think that you have. And she meant a lot to your dad, Frankie, and Frank, you've met her. But anyway, without getting into the details of the divorce, I took my sons, and I had a lot of help, but I had two kids, and I didn't have a wife. Um, I wish I'd been able to get Sam too, your Uncle Sam, but I couldn't. I mean, he's not my biological son, so he couldn't come. And Sam did fine. I'm sure he wished he had come. I don't know if Sam watches these, but if you do, Sam, hit me up on Messenger or text me. Let me know if you would have wanted to come with us. Um, Now, I mentioned when I became born again. This happened 13 years before that. So we're talking about 1983, and I got saved in late 1996. So it's at least 13 years, maybe more. And I got the divorce decree, and I read it. I mean, I already knew what was in it, and I said, I'm responsible for these two young lives. So to put it into perspective, Tom was 2 and Frankie was 4. More or less, that's their ages. Because I don't know what part of the year this happened in. So they were little guys. And later I talked to my girlfriend Judy, and she was a big influence on Frank and Tom's lives. We lived with her for several years, and her 3 kids, Alex, Becca, and Jim. And she said, yeah, Frank, I realized that one day I looked around and went, I'm it. If I don't do it, it's not going to get done. I'm it. If I turn my back on it, it's going to be chaos. I'm the person who has to do everything for these kids. Can't rely on my husband because she had a husband. He has since passed away. Alex, Becca, and Jim's dad, a guy named Rick. And I'm it. And that's what I realized. And then I said, not only that, but I'm responsible for me. Now, up to that point, I blamed my parents for every F up that I did. I accused them of being too soft, being too hard, not providing enough of this, not providing enough of that. And I had a million excuses for why I wasn't what I wanted to be. And none of it was that it was my fault. It was their fault. And then there's something else. I realized that I would die someday. And now I'm much closer to that than when I was 30. Who knows when? But up until that time, that thought really never occurred to me. I knew what death was. I wasn't like some crazy lunatic who, you know, didn't understand reality. I knew what death was. I knew people died, but as far as I was concerned, I could do anything, and there were no repercussions. And part of that was because there had been no repercussions. You know, I was reasonably healthy, had these kids, and I was a cop in Philadelphia. It's a good chance that I could die just going to work one day. Go out there and have somebody shoot me or stab me. But I looked at those three things. I'm responsible for these boys, these two boys. I'm responsible for myself. Can't blame it on my parents. And I'm going to die someday. And all of a sudden, I said, I need to focus on how to make this work. And it completely changed my life. Now, notice that the statement at the beginning of this was, I grew up at 30 years old. When did you? I didn't say, when will you? And there's a reason for that. Olive and Arlo, you're not going to grow up for a while. You'll think you're grown up. Arlo, you probably think you're grown up already, and you're 3, but you're not going to grow up for a while. But Frank, you're 22. I saw a video of you the other day. Son, you need to grow up. It's your grandpa talking to you. 2 things in the video stood out to me. It talked about, you're in Kensington with the Kenzos and all this kind of stuff. You're not a Kenzo. I'm a Kenzo. And your dad was kind of a Kenzo. He did live on York Street for a while. He went to the Lutheran school down there on, I think, Susquehanna Avenue or Columbia. I forget which street it was on. But Frank and Tom, neither of them, when they were young, thought of themselves as Kenzos. And you're not that. And the second thing is, Frank, you need right now to take control of your life. And when you do that, we're going to be here. We're going to be ready, willing, and able to help you. By we, I'm talking about our family, your family over in Jersey, your dad's family. We're waiting for you, son. And you're blaming us for what's going on. And hey, it's BS, dude. It's BS, and I'm calling it out. Now, why am I doing this publicly? I was immature for 29 plus years. And there's people who may get to watch this that they could be younger than that or older than that, and they're still immature and they need to grow up. But see, the thing is, there's this guy named Colin Cowherd. I think that's his name. He's some sports commentator guy. And he said, people who don't get it don't get that they don't get it. That's the problem. It's got to do with confirmation bias, fundamental attribution error, um, cognitive dissonance, all those kind of things. People block themselves from reality. They go like, oh no, it's not me, it's the rest of the world. They're all messed up. I'm cool. Well, you ain't. You may think you have all the answers now, but you probably don't even know the questions that need to be asked. So, if you're listening to this and you're going, this guy's full of crap, or if you're listening to this and you're going, I think maybe he's talking to me, or you're listening to this and you're going, hey, I don't know. Maybe I'm immature, maybe I've grown up. Whatever. The important thing is that you're listening to this, and you need to do something to take inventory of your life right now. What I would suggest is that you go into my video library and find a video called Who Am I? And do that exercise. And you'll find out what's important in your life and what isn't. And then you can go, well, what I think is important, is it really important? Or is it just my immaturity? Because you can't look forward to this. I think it's the Dunning-Kruger effect. The more incompetent you are, the more competent you believe you are. So you can't say, oh yeah, I'm going to be mature someday. It hits you like a ton of bricks, like boom. When I was standing there with that divorce decree, it just nailed me. Whoa. I'm responsible for these kids. I'm responsible for myself. I can't blame it on somebody else. I have to get results. And I have to do it before I die. Because I'm going to die someday. And it's going to nail you too when you get the conviction. Very similar to when you find Jesus. He kind of knocks you on your butt too. Like, hey, stop. You're going the wrong way. Boom. And if you are grown up, then you know what I mean. When I talk to people, there's things that they say that I go, yeah, I'm talking to a grown up. And there's other things that people say, and I say, ooh, I'm talking to a kid who's trying hard not to grow up. Some of these people are very successful. It has nothing to do with success. It's to do with responsibility. Responsibility for your life and the lives of others. You probably don't have a birthday for it, just like I don't. But there's a series of events, and you know, like this series of events happened. And it's when I realized I was messing up and I had to be an adult. People talk about, oh, the adults in the room. Well, you want to be one of those adults in the room. You don't act like a kid. You don't want to be Peter Pan. Everybody else grew up, and Peter Pan's like, oh man, yeah, I'm still a kid. Well, how'd that work out for you, Peter? And if you can't look back and see an event in your life that makes you say, hey, That's when I grew up. Then you need to grow up. And you need to grow up now. Peace out.